Greetings, Patriots. We are now working on lesson 7.2.6, and please make sure you have a notebook and a pencil and set up your notebook for the lesson. And you can see that on this slide. We are going to be working with multiplying and dividing decimals. We're going to be reviewing that. So if you would please take the opportunity when we get to the steps to write the steps for each one. And again, wherever you see the I do problems, make sure that you are solving the I do problems with us. And then take a moment to stop and try one on your own and then check your answers. If you were not able to access the link, you will find that the link is also on slide 3. Okay, so our objectives today are, I will multiply and divide decimal numbers given a real life scenario, a real life situation. So where do we use multiplying and dividing of decimals in our real world? Well, we use that when it comes to shopping for a variety of items. We also use it if anybody does any sewing. Whenever we have to think about a craft and we're going to make a specific craft, sometimes we need materials in order to figure out perhaps how many bracelets we need to make or how many shirts we need to make. So we use this skill in our everyday world. All right, so let's take an opportunity to look at the following problem. So right here in your notes, you may want to take the opportunity to write your steps to remember, especially when it comes to multiplying. So you may want to pause and go ahead and write the following steps, which consist of setting up your answer or setting up your problem without lining up place value. Okay, not worrying about that. Then you're going to multiply as normal. And then you're going to count the decimal places, right, in both factors in order to insert that decimal in the product, in the answer to your multiplication problem. And then you'll start on the right and slide to the left. So I will model that. However, I will like to share a strategy that Miss King personally likes to use. Okay, before we even begin multiplying. So if I take an opportunity and look at this number right here, I can see that I'm just going to say that that is 0.6. And if I look at the number 8.4, if I'm going to multiply that by 8.4, I'm going to say that 8.4 is pretty darn close to just $8. And I know when I multiply 8 times 6, that's 48. But since I'm multiplying by 8 times 0.6, that's going to give me 4 8/10, or 4.8, which is close to approximately 5. So when I actually multiply this out, I'm going to do step number 1. When I multiply 0.62 times 8.4, remember, I am going to not worry about my decimals at all. I'm just going to line up, right, without place value. I know that my answer should be close to 5, okay? So if I multiply these two out, I know that 4 times 2 gives me 8. 4 times 6 is 24. And I know that's 0, so 2. And I am done with the 4. Okay, now I'm going to go ahead and multiply 8 times 2, which gives me 16, 48, and 1 is 49, and that would come right here. So then I go ahead and add these up. And remember, I need to count the decimal places in both factors. So if I count these decimal places here, I know I have 2 decimal places, and 1 more gives me 3. So that means I'm going to have to insert the decimal in the product. Start on the right, slide to the left. So therefore, if it's 3 times, I'm going to go 1, 2, 3. So my product is 5 and 208 thousandths, 0.208. Again, look at my estimate. I had estimated 4.8, which I did say was close to 5. So therefore, was I pretty darn close? So sometimes if you forget this step of counting the decimal values, don't do that. Just estimate, right? So that you know exactly where I have to place my actual right, decimal in my product. Okay, moving on. Now what we're going to do is we are going to take, right, the dividend, and we are going to divide it by the divisor of 4.1. So this says I have 35.26 divided by 4.1. Well, this says move the decimal to make the divisor a whole number. So I'm going to move that to make it a whole number. Move the decimal in the dividend, right, the same number of times that I moved it in the divisor. So I only moved it once to the right. Miss King personally likes to rewrite after she moves. And there's my decimal. And as it says, place the decimal into the quotient. So I'm going to bring that decimal place straight up. Okay, so now what I need to do is actually multiply. I'm looking for the number that I multiply that gives me 41 times a number that gets me close to 352. Okay, sometimes it's important for us to just estimate. I like to multiply always by 5, right? Because I know 41 does not divide evenly into 3 or 5, but it definitely divides into 352. So if I start with 41 times 5, that gives me 205, and I'm looking for 352, right? So therefore, I'm going to try a little bit higher. 41 times, I don't know, 8. If I multiply 41 times 8, I'm going to get 328, and that's going to get me pretty darn close. So 41 times 8 is 328. But notice how I used my 5. Okay? And if I subtract this, I'm going to get 24. I have to bring down my 6, so 41 times a number has to get me close to 246. Well, I know that 41 times 5 is 205, so gee, I'm going to try 41 times 6. Oh, thank you, Miss King. That was easy. As soon as I multiplied 41 times 6, that gave me 246, exactly what I needed. So therefore, the quotient for this, the answer to this division problem is 8.6. So again, move your decimal to make the divisor whole, just like we did here. That 4.1 became 41. However many times you move that decimal, you're going to move the decimal in the dividend the same number of times that you moved it in the divisor. So we moved 1 to the right, 1 over. Then you place your decimal straight in the quotient so that when you start dividing, you'll be good. All right, let's go ahead and go to the I do set of problems. Make sure that you have an opportunity to actually write some of these and show your work. Miss Limon bought 22 glue sticks. Each of those glue sticks cost $1.20. Well, how much did she spend on all of those glue sticks? So if I think about a glue stick, I know that the price tag, according to this, is $1.20. So she bought 22 of those sticks, okay? So what I'm going to go ahead and do is multiply $1.20 times 22, okay? So if I do $1.20 times 22, all right, I'm going to estimate, and I always say this. I'm just going to say that 22 times 1, my answer should be more than $22, but 22 times 1 is a good prediction. So that just helps me with my decimal at my decimal point at the end, okay? So let's go ahead and multiply that. I should be looking for a number that's greater than 22. So that's 0, that's 4, and that's 2. And I'm going to go ahead and continue to multiply. And when I do that, again, I should be getting an answer that's about $22. So that also helps me determine that my decimal value is going to have to go right here. So again, how many decimals, right, are in the factor? There's 2. So you should have moved 2 places to the left. All right, let's go ahead and go to the next problem. A store owner has 7.11 pounds of candy. So just imagine this huge candy jar, and there's 7.11 pounds. And she's going to put all of this candy that's in here into 9 jars. So that means she's going to have to take all of that stuff and distribute it evenly as best as she can into those jars. So how much candy will each jar actually contain? How many pounds of candy will it contain? So if you stop and think about that, right, what am I dividing? I'm dividing this huge jar, which consists of 7.11 pounds, and I'm going to have to divide that by the 9 jars. So here's my dividend. My divisor of 9, well, what's nice here is it's already a whole number. So therefore, if it's already a whole number, I don't have to worry about that. Let me make myself some room right here. Okay, so I'm going to just bring my decimal straight up in the quotient, and I know that 9 cannot go into 7, but it surely can go into 71. 9 times 7 is 63. So when I subtract the 71 minus the 63, that gives me 8. Bring down the 1, and 9 times 9 is 81. All right, so that means that every one of those jars is going to have 79.79 pounds of candy, not even a full pound, 0.79 pounds of candy in each of the jars. Okay? So now, and you try. You try to determine if you're going to multiply or divide. So Miss Rogers, so you can read this on your own, or you can listen to me read, stop, and try to solve it, and then check your answer. Miss Rogers is doing a project with her students that requires each student to use 7.5 inches piece of ribbon. If the spool of ribbon, so one of those things of ribbon, right, that has it goes around and around the spool, she brought from the store is 180 inches long, how many students will actually get one of those pieces of ribbon? Okay, so I need you to think, right? If I were to unravel that spool of ribbon, it's going to be super long. It's going to be 180 inches long. Each of the students needs to use about 7.5 inches of ribbon for their project. So I need to see how many students will get a piece of that ribbon. So this is one student, this is another student, until I finish this spool, right? So that means 180 is what I'm going to have to divide by 7.5. So once again, my divisor needs to be made a whole number. And that's what I'm going to do by moving 1 decimal to the right. And what I do outside, I must do inside to the dividend. So I'm going to go ahead and do that and rewrite. So I have 1800. Write your decimal and put it in the quotient, right? So therefore, what I'm going to get is follows. I'm going to divide these two, and I know that 75 goes into 180 twice. 75 times 2 is 150. That leaves me with 300 when I subtract that. And I know that 75 times 4 is equal to 300. So therefore, how many students will get a piece of ribbon? 24 students. Okay, Patriots, it's going to be your turn to work on an independent assignment. So please make sure that you use your notes that we wrote down just to review multiplying and dividing fractions. So, did we have an opportunity to multiply, divide decimal numbers given real life scenarios? Yes, we did. Have a wonderful day, Patriots.